Have you ever sat in your favorite chair just before dusk, when the light in the room softens and everything feels suspended for a moment? The teacup beside you still warm, the house finally quiet, and yet something inside keeps moving, not loudly, just gently unsettled, like a sigh you never got to release. You look out the window, and the trees are still, but your thoughts, they drift, don't they? Sometimes, it's not the big things that wear us down, it's the quiet wondering, have I given too much? Have I forgotten something? Someone, maybe myself? There's a kind of question that doesn't knock on your door with answers. It lingers, it leans against the walls of your life without saying a word, and as the years go by, it becomes harder to ignore. Not painful, just persistent, like the tick of a clock that suddenly feels too loud. Lately, I've started to wonder, what if peace isn't something we need to chase, but something we slowly remember? Sometimes, it takes only a shift in the light, or the rustle of autumn outside the window, for a thought to arrive, not a demand, not even a conclusion. Just a gentle noticing, I've been here for everyone. But when was the last time I truly sat beside myself? We don't need to fix anything tonight. No lists, no striving, no final answers, just a quiet place to breathe, to sit with what is. There's an old story I'd like to tell you. It doesn't promise to solve every ache, but maybe, just maybe, it will help you find your way back to something you didn't realize had gone missing. Shall we begin? Part 1. The world that pulls you away from yourself. Have you ever felt like you're living everyone's life but your own? There's a quiet ache that many people carry, not loud enough to scream, but persistent enough to weigh on the heart. It's that strange feeling of being surrounded by people, by roles, by responsibilities, and yet feeling lost. Have you ever sat down at the end of the day and whispered to yourself, what am I even doing all this for? If so, you're not alone. This ache, this gentle sorrow, is often the first sign that somewhere along the way we've drifted from ourselves. You see, the world has a way of wrapping you in layers, layer upon layer of identity, the good daughter, the faithful husband, the strong mother, the reliable friend. And then there are the labels we didn't ask for, too old, too late, too quiet, too sensitive. Over time, we begin to respond more to the expectations others place upon us than to the voice that softly calls from within. We learn to nod, to comply, to perform, and gradually we begin to forget the sound of our own soul. The Buddha once said, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not moved by praise or blame. But how often are we moved, sometimes even shaped by praise and blame? How often do we live, not because something feels right in our bones, but because it looks right in the eyes of others? I remember the story of a woman named Lien, a retired teacher who spent her whole life giving to her students, her family, her aging parents. When her husband passed and her children moved away, she found herself sitting in the same kitchen, day after day, wondering why the silence felt so unfamiliar, like she no longer belonged even in her own life. One evening she said to me, I've done everything right, but now I don't even know who I am without someone needing me. And that is the paradox of a life built only on service, without self-connection. Yes, generosity is noble, but when we give everything away without remembering to sit with ourselves, we become hollow lanterns, glowing on the outside, but flickering within. In Buddhist practice, this disconnection from the self is known as moha, delusion or confusion. It's when the mind chases shadows and illusions, forgetting the light that burns within. And the world today, with its endless noise, feeds this delusion. We're told what to wear, how to age, what success looks like, often by people who have never known peace themselves. So here's a gentle question. one that might sting a little. But sometimes, that sting is where the truth lives. When was the last time you asked yourself, truly, sincerely, is this life I'm living still mine? You don't have to answer it right away, but let the question walk beside you. Let it sit in your chair when you sip your tea. Let it rest on your pillow as you fall asleep, because sometimes the first step back home is not a leap, but a quiet turning inward. And that brings us to something even more mysterious, something most people mistake as weakness, but may in fact be your truest compass. What if the very discomfort you've been trying to silence is actually the voice of your soul trying to lead you back? Part 2. The voice within is not your enemy. What if the unease you feel isn't a flaw, but a doorway? There is a particular kind of restlessness that visits in the quiet moments, not the frantic buzz of a busy day, but something more tender. Perhaps you felt it while washing dishes or lying awake in the stillness of the night. It begins as a slight discomfort in the chest, a flicker of sadness behind the eyes, a thought like a whisper, "This doesn't feel right anymore." And yet, instead of listening, we push it away. We distract ourselves, dismiss it, or worse, judge ourselves for even feeling it. But the teachings of the Buddha tell a different story. The Buddha spoke often of dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness of life when we are not aligned with the truth of things. And sometimes dukkha arrives not as suffering we can see, but as that gentle dissonance between the life we live and the truth we know inside. That feeling is not your enemy. It is the soul stirring. It is the beginning of awakening. I once met an elderly man at a temple retreat. His name was Harold, a former accountant with grown children and a peaceful home. On the surface, he had everything he needed. Yet he confessed that for years he carried a quiet sorrow that he couldn't explain. "I've done all the right things," he said, "but I wake up feeling like I missed something I can't name." During one walking meditation, he paused beneath a Bodhi tree and whispered, "Maybe the thing I missed was me." It takes courage to face the truth that a life can look full and yet feel empty. But here's the gentle truth, that whisper of unease, that sensation that something is off. It is not a punishment. It is your sitter, your heart-mind, trying to reach you. In one Zen tale, a monk asks his teacher, "What is the path to liberation?" The teacher replies, "The path is simple. It begins the moment you stop running from yourself." The monk, puzzled, says, "But what if I do not like what I find?" And the master smiles, "Then you must stay even longer, until you see that even what you feared is worthy of compassion." You see, most of us fear what we might find if we look too closely. Old regrets, unmet dreams, the weight of years gone by. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, nothing needs to be rejected to be healed. What we resist becomes heavier. What we hold with mindfulness begins to soften. So the next time that feeling comes, that pang of longing or discomfort, I invite you not to silence it, but to meet it like an old friend who has returned with a message. Sit with it, breathe with it, ask, "What is this trying to show me?" You may be surprised by what arises, and this leads us deeper into a truth that many have forgotten. In a world that glorifies sacrifice and self-denial, what if choosing yourself, not from ego, but from compassion, is the most generous act you could offer the world? Part 3. Choosing yourself is an act of compassion. What if loving yourself isn't selfish, but sacred? For most of our lives, we've been taught that putting others first is noble, that giving until we're empty is the mark of love, of strength, of goodness. And in many ways, there is beauty in that kind of generosity. But what happens when we give so much that we no longer recognize the face in the mirror? What happens when the well runs dry and all that remains is a smile held together by habit? In Buddhist thought, compassion, karusa, is a boundless force, meant to flow in all directions, including inward. Yet somehow, the stream of compassion we offer to others often dries up when it turns toward ourselves. We care for aging parents, raise children, show up for friends in pain, and still feel guilty for taking a single day to rest, to breathe, to simply be. There's a story from the Pali Canon about a monk who practiced meditation so intensely that he became physically ill. When the Buddha visited him, he asked, "Why do you neglect your body, which has served you?" The monk replied, "I thought focusing on myself was attachment." And the Buddha gently said, "To care for this body, this mind, is not attachment, but wisdom. One who tends a sick person tends me." Even the enlightened one reminded us, caring for oneself is part of the path, not a deviation from it. I met a woman once named Clara, a retired nurse who had spent her entire adult life caring for others. When her husband passed and her children had their own families, she told me, "I don't know what to do with myself now. No one needs me." We sat in silence for a moment before I asked, "But do you need you?" Her eyes welled up. She had never asked herself that before. Choosing yourself is not about turning your back on the world. It is about finally turning toward the one person you've long ignored, yourself. It's a shift from exhaustion to balance, from resentment to warmth. When you are well, when your heart is nourished, everything you give becomes pure, not an obligation, not a performance, but an offering born from fullness. The Buddha said, "You yourself, as much as anyone in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection, not because you've earned it, not because you've met every demand, but simply because you are a living being, and all beings are worthy of care." So here's a question to let rest gently on your heart tonight. If someone else spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you call it kindness? Let the answer be soft. Let it lead you not to guilt, but to grace. And once that shift begins, once you start showing up for yourself with tenderness, something quietly extraordinary starts to happen. The world, almost like a mirror, begins to reflect that truth back to you, and the very people and situations you need to grow start to appear. Part 4. The shadows you've avoided carry light. What if the parts of yourself you hide are the very keys to your freedom? There's a moment in every life, often quiet, often painful, when we realize we've been carrying pieces of ourselves in silence. Regret that we tucked away in the back of the mind, shame buried beneath our smiles, anger that was never allowed to speak. We hide these things because the world told us they were too heavy, too dark, too impolite to bring to the table. And yet as the years pass, we begin to feel that weight in our shoulders, our breath, our dreams. It waits, it lingers, and sometimes it aches. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that nothing within us is wasted. Even our shadows have something to offer. In fact, the very things we try to suppress, our guilt, our fear, our sorrow, often hold the exact insight we need to return to ourselves. There's an old Zen story of a monk who sought enlightenment. He meditated for years in a mountain cave, hoping to rid himself of all unworthy thoughts. One day, frustrated by the persistence of his inner turmoil, he threw open the cave doors and screamed, "Be gone, demons of anger, leave me." But instead of silence, a wise old sage appeared and said calmly, "The demons don't leave because you yell. They leave when you sit beside them without fear." From that day forward, the monk changed his approach. Each time fear or sadness arrived, he welcomed it like a guest, asking, "What do you want me to see?" We've been conditioned to believe that healing comes from fixing, from changing, from escaping. But the Buddha taught a different path, the path of sati, or mindfulness, to see clearly, to observe without judgment, to sit with what is. I once knew a man named Paul who spent decades avoiding the memory of a broken promise he made to his brother, something that haunted him in quiet moments. He never spoke of it, not even to his wife. But when illness came and life slowed down, the silence grew louder. Finally, during a mindfulness circle, he spoke the words aloud, "I've lived a good life, but I've never forgiven myself for leaving him alone that day." The room fell still. He wept, not from weakness, but from release. "I thought if I looked at it, it would destroy me," he said later. "But now I see, it just wanted to be seen." This is the truth that liberates. Your shadows are not trying to harm you. They're trying to be heard. The pain you carry is not a punishment. It is a sign that something once mattered deeply. And in that space of honesty, something sacred opens. The Buddha once said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." Sometimes that word is simply yes. Yes to what's inside. Yes to your humanity. Yes to the parts of you that have waited patiently to be included. So now a quiet invitation. What have you been avoiding within yourself? And what might happen if just for a moment you sat beside it and listened? Because the moment you stop running from your inner life, you begin to uncover a kind of strength no one can take from you. And when that strength begins to grow, you'll find yourself ready, perhaps for the first time, to say something that once felt impossible. No, not in defiance, but in deep, unwavering self-respect. Part 5. Boundaries are bridges, not walls. What if saying no is the kindest gift you can give to yourself and to others? There's a moment, subtle, almost invisible, when we say yes, even though something inside whispers no. Maybe it's to avoid disappointing someone. Maybe it's to keep the peace. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because we've never been taught that it's okay to protect our own peace. Over time, those small betrayals of the self begin to add up, like tiny cracks in the foundation of a home. And one day, you wake up exhausted, wondering why being a good person feels so heavy. But what if we've misunderstood what boundaries really are? In Buddhist tradition, there's a concept called sila, ethical conduct. It's often translated as morality, but that word can feel stiff and cold. What sila truly points to is the art of living in alignment, knowing where your energy flows best, and protecting it with compassion, not control. A boundary then is not a fence of fear, but a path of care. Not a wall to keep love out, but a bridge that ensures the love you offer and receive is true. There's a Zen parable of a young monk named Haru, who was known for his kindness. Every day the villagers came to him with their troubles, and he always listened, always helped, always gave. But slowly his health began to fail. He grew thin, tired, irritable. One morning his master asked, "Why do you no longer smile?" Haru replied, "Because I am tired of being good." The master nodded and said gently, "Then be good to yourself first. Otherwise your kindness is borrowed, and one day it will come due." How many of us are like Haru, carrying the weight of others without pause, without boundary, without breath? I once spoke with an older woman named Teresa, who spent her entire life saying yes to community, to church, to every friend in crisis. But she admitted, in tears, that she rarely had a day to herself. "I thought being needed was the same as being loved," she said. "But now I see I was afraid to be alone with my own needs." Her story is not rare, and perhaps it mirrors something in you too. The Buddha offered a simple yet profound teaching. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without Boundaries are one way we protect that peace, not because others are bad, but because you are learning to honor the shape of your soul. And that shape has limits, not hard edges, but soft lines that say, this is where I can give without disappearing. So here's a gentle challenge, not to the world, but to you. What might it look like to say no, not out of guilt, but from grounded clarity? And what might that free you to say yes to? When we say no to what drains us, we say yes to what sustains us. Stillness, creativity, rest, reflection. These are not luxuries, they are lifelines. And once those lifelines are restored, something incredible begins to happen. You stop chasing connection, and instead, you begin attracting what aligns. Because when you live in truth, the world reshapes itself to meet you there. Part 6. As within, so without. What if the outer world shifts the moment your inner world aligns? There's a quiet power that comes from living in truth, not the kind of truth that needs to shout or convince, but the steady, grounded knowing that arises when we stop pretending, when we stop forcing ourselves to fit into molds that no longer feel like home. And something strange happens when we begin to live this way, something almost miraculous. The world around us starts to change. It's subtle at first. A friendship that once drained you begins to drift. A conversation that once made you shrink now feels easier to walk away from. And then slowly, like dawn revealing the shape of a mountain, you notice the people, the spaces, the opportunities that now come your way feel lighter, truer, more in rhythm with the quiet song inside you. In Buddhist philosophy, this phenomenon has no need for mysticism. It is simply karma, not as reward or punishment, but as cause and effect. As the Buddha taught, with our thoughts, we make the world. When your thoughts shift, when your energy becomes aligned, the ripples reach outward, and life, like a mirror, reflects your new direction. I once knew an elderly man named Samuel who spent much of his life working in finance, attending social events he disliked, and maintaining friendships he no longer felt connected to. All because, in his words, that's just how the world works. But in retirement, something changed. He began spending mornings in silence, afternoons in the garden, evenings reading old poetry. He stopped replying out of obligation. He allowed stillness to replace performance. And within months, he shared something beautiful. It's strange. The less I try to be impressive, the more I seem to belong to myself and to the world. This is not coincidence, it's coherence. When your inner compass is clear, you naturally walk toward what fits, and what no longer fits begins to fall away, not in drama, but in grace. There's a Zen saying, the wild geese do not intend to cast their reflection, and the water has no mind to receive their image. The peace you create inside doesn't need to be projected. It simply is, and the world responds without force. But that doesn't mean this path is without challenge. Sometimes, the old world will call you back. Old patterns may whisper, just one more time. Old roles may plead for you to return. And it's tempting, because the familiar has its own kind of comfort. But comfort, as you've learned, is not the same as truth. So ask yourself gently, what has begun to shift around me since I started honoring myself within? Look closely. The signs are there, subtle, sacred, patient. A new friend, a deeper breath, a softness in your mornings, a moment of stillness that feels like prayer. And if you follow those signs, they lead somewhere deeper, to a threshold many never dare to cross. The place where resistance rises, not to stop you, but to test whether you're truly ready to become who you were always meant to be. Part 7. Resistance is not a sign to stop. What if the fear you feel is not a wall, but a doorway? Right before transformation, there is often turbulence. The moment we begin to live more truthfully, even just a little, something pushes back. It can come as doubt, as fatigue, as the sudden urge to return to the safety of old patterns. And for many, this resistance feels like a warning. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe this was a mistake. But what if resistance isn't a signal to retreat, but a sign you're getting close to something real? The Buddha understood this. On the night of his great awakening, as he sat beneath the Bodhi tree, it was not peace that greeted him first, but Mara. Mara, the embodiment of fear, temptation, confusion, appeared again and again, conjuring visions, whispering doubts, offering comfort in retreat. But the Buddha didn't fight. He didn't run. He simply said, "I see you, Mara," and returned to his breath. That's all. Seeing clearly, not reacting. Remaining still. In our lives, Mara shows up in many forms. The familiar voice that says, "You're too old to change." The pang of guilt when you choose rest over obligation. The ache of loneliness when old relationships fade as you rise into new clarity. And yet, like the Buddha, you have the power to sit calmly in the face of it all and whisper, "I see you, and I choose peace anyway." I remember a man named Joseph, a retired military officer who had spent decades moving from place to place, following orders, protecting others. But in his 70s, as his body slowed, his heart began to ask quieter questions. What do I believe? What do I love? Who am I now? The first time he spoke these questions aloud, his voice trembled, not from weakness, but from shedding decades of silence. And as he tried to build a new rhythm of gentleness, of poetry, gardening, prayer, he felt that resistance. This isn't me, he'd think. This isn't what I was taught to be. But over time he began to see the resistance wasn't his enemy, it was his threshold. Zen monks often teach that resistance is like a storm on the sea. The waves crash, the wind howls, but beneath it all, in the depths, the water is still. Your task is not to stop the storm. It is to anchor yourself in the stillness beneath it. So when discomfort rises, when fear knocks at the door, ask not, "How do I make this go away?" but rather, "What is this teaching me about what I'm leaving behind and what I'm stepping into?" Because if you turn away every time the old pain reappears, you may never discover the life that's waiting on the other side. Resistance is not punishment. It is the friction between who you were and who you are becoming. And the more you move through it, patiently, mindfully, with compassion, the clearer your steps become. Your vision sharpens. Your voice steadies. And just beyond that, resistance lies something precious, something many long for, but few allow themselves to receive. A kind of freedom that doesn't roar, but rests gently in your bones. The freedom of coming home to yourself. Part 8. The freedom of returning home to yourself. What if the life you've been searching for has been quietly waiting within you all along? There is a kind of liberation that cannot be bought, cannot be borrowed, and cannot be faked. It doesn't come wrapped in applause or status or recognition. It arrives instead, like a soft breeze on a quiet morning, unnoticed by most, but unmistakable to the one who has been waiting. This is the freedom that comes when you finally stop running, not from the world, but from yourself, and turn gently inward, like a lotus folding open at dawn. Buddhist wisdom calls this nibbana, not some far-off mystical state, but the extinguishing of grasping and fear, the moment when you are no longer at war with the flow of life, no longer pulling at the past or leaning anxiously into the future. It is, as the Buddha taught, the unbinding. And it begins when you stop living from the outside in and begin living from the inside out. I once sat with an old woman named Myra, who spent her life as a caregiver, a mother, a nurse, a wife, always tending to others. In her late 70s, she began painting again, something she hadn't touched since childhood. One afternoon, she told me through tears, "For the first time, I don't feel like I'm performing for anyone. I'm not doing this to be useful. I'm just me." That moment, simple, ordinary, unremarkable to most, was her liberation. No ceremony, no achievement, just the quiet recognition of her own being. Zen masters say, when the mind rests where it is, the world rests with it. And indeed, when we stop contorting ourselves to fit what others expect, we begin to discover the rhythm of our own truth. A rhythm that moves more slowly, more kindly, more honestly. This kind of living is not flashy. It will not make headlines, but it will give you something far more lasting. The ability to sit alone in silence and feel at home. You may still face challenges. The body may still ache. Loss will still arrive, as it does in every life. But beneath it all, there will be a steadiness, a quiet trust in who you are and how far you've come. Not the old self defined by roles, by regrets, by shoulds, but the self who sees clearly, who loves deeply, who knows what truly matters. And here's the beautiful irony. The more you return to yourself, the more fully you can love others. No longer from obligation, but from overflow. No longer out of fear, but from wholeness. It is the metta, the boundless loving kindness the Buddha spoke of, radiating naturally, like light from a flame that no longer flickers. So take this moment, now, wherever you are, and pause. Feel your breath, feel your heartbeat. This is your life, not the one someone else planned for you, not the one that pleases the crowd, but the one that is shaped, breath, by your own choosing. And if you feel uncertain, remember, you are not late, you are not broken, you are simply arriving, perhaps for the first time, to the place you've always belonged. And that, dear friend, is the true beginning. Remember that moment in the quiet room just before dusk when the light softened across the floor and the house seemed to hold its breath. It's still there. Maybe your cup of tea has long gone cold, but something in you has warmed, and maybe, just maybe, something has shifted. Not everything, not all at once, but enough to exhale. I've been sitting with this thought, even as I've spoken it aloud to you. Maybe we don't need to go anywhere else to begin again. Maybe peace doesn't arrive as a grand awakening, but as the moment we stop turning away from ourselves, the moment we look gently at who we are, where we've been, and say, you can rest now. You made it this far. There are aches we don't always speak of, names we still carry in silence, decisions that haunt in the late hours, versions of ourselves we're still learning to forgive. But you know, some wounds don't need to be explained. They just want to be held, with kindness, with breath, with time. And maybe that's why we're here together tonight. Not to find answers, but to sit, side by side, in this shared remembering. If this story has stirred something quiet in you, if it brushed against a corner of your heart you thought no one else could see, maybe someone you love is carrying the same weight. You could send this their way. No need to explain, just a quiet way of saying, you're not alone. I'm thinking of you. And maybe, just maybe, that's how the healing begins. One breath, one story, one soul reaching another. Thank you for being here.